Hello and welcome to round 5 of the Canadian Regional, the second regional of the Overpower Season 0, featuring the Edgar Rice Burroughs set. We have tournament veteran, arguably the greatest player to ever sit behind a hand of Overpower, Phil Keffer, piloting a deck with Count of Monte Cristo, Sherlock Holmes, and Leonidas with Dr. Watson in the back, going up against newcomer Ben Newcomer. That is, that's his name, Ben Newcomer. Also playing Sherlock Holmes with Leonidas, which is an interesting combo. And they both have a Baker Street home base. They both have Watson in the back, which is interesting because this is kind of a new combination we haven't really seen before. Co-commentating with me is commentary veteran and Overpower once first ranked player in the world, Tyler Bertrand. How are you doing, Tyler?
I'm good. Yeah, I agree with you. I like both these decks. It's interesting that they both kind of came up with a similar concept at the same time. The Leonidas Sherlock combo. I really like the Monte Cristo vibe, and I'm wondering if I'm a bit concerned on the defense, but we'll see what happens.
Yeah, well, luckily he's getting a little bit of his defense down right away. There's two negates in both decks. Which is, interesting when you're not playing a character that is non-1 per deck negate. You're used to having 3, possibly 4, plus 1 off your side or your any hero, getting you up to 5. Sherlock Holmes brings a 1 per deck 1, and they both have their any character 1. It'll be interesting to see if they play the offensive only negate.
Yeah, so like I like playing that with the event. Actually, that tends to be what I do with Sherlock builds. I tend to run the Tarzan events with the making that offensive one defensive, and then I usually run a couple because I think I would treat it just like as a remove special card hit as well, and I think that can be valuable.
Now Keffer's got a lot of heat going on here. He's got the network of thieves, a 6 discard 2 for Monte Cristo. He's got a Jacopo, which is a tool that's not in newcomers deck. A player like Keffer is so clever about when to do it. It's going to be interesting to see if Phil comes up with really interesting things to put face down or finds a way to capitalize on it. Now, Ben's got an okay hand, but I feel like both players are a little light on the team defense first hand, which is a common thing. Keffer places out to 1 card. Ben's got 2 in his hand. Ben did have a dupe. Keffer didn't. That's going to factor in. But Ben's got an interesting card placed. His the 1 per deck placed to Sherlock Holmes is going to let him go through Keffer's deck and cherry pick out the 2 best cards in the deck. It'll be interesting to see. Keffer is a type of player who I've noticed tends to calculate everything about the immediate battle that he's in or future battles based off damage and venture. Whereas I felt like he's in the past less prioritized stuff where it's like, well, you'll get 2 of my good cards, but I'm going to win the battles as the battles approach. It'll be interesting to see if when Ben plays that card, if Keffer negates it or if Keffer sees it as it's not affecting me winning whatever I'm betting. Keffer looks to be taking 4 first hand. So he recognizes a lack of kind of team defense. But it's interesting because Keffer has no cards in his hand. Ben has perfect information. Keffer probably placed out to kill the card on Dr. Watson.
Yeah, this is interesting. As much as I like that Sherlock card firsthand for Ben, the big issue here is going to be the Jacobo, White Tiger, or like the other count, the count 6 that forces the discard. I think he's just looking at Sherlock Holmes as just a ripe target. There's no defense for it, and 2 power cards are placed on their characters. So Phil's got to be looking at if he does a draw 7 or an anti-hero defense.
Well, and Sherlock's it's also interestingly enough, he's not representing a way to block that card. He put the 6 on Zorro. So meaning that, if Keffer's thinking it through, he says to himself, in order for Ben to block it, I have to use a piece of full team defense in his hand, or he has to have a 7 that's not in combat, which is clearly his main suit. So Keffer knows that the odds of him having that are a lot less. And it looks like he's just playing those odds. And Ben says, I don't have it. I've got a 1. I've got an offensive 4 multi for Sherlock, a 7. Ben has a ton of offensive heat, but if he goes Jacopo 6, he's going to paint up Sherlock kill 2 cards in his hand, and Ben says, nope, I'm going to give you your 4, and I'm just going to move on to hand 2 and see if I can improve my position.
Yeah, that's tough early on to have to give your opponent 4 missions like that. I don't know if it might have been worth it for Ben to play a few turns, just maybe even eat the 6. Like, I mean, you could discard the Sherlock card if you're concerned about that immediate venture.
He also could have just dumped a few in his hand. I think the real problem was that he couldn't block the 4. If I could block the 4 and then just take the 6, dump 2 from my hand, and go into the next hand, 5 cards on 5 cards, I think I would, or 6 on 5. I think I would have 6 on 6, even it up. I might have done that, but the fact that he couldn't even block the 4, and I'm sure that Sherlock Holmes is the hardest character in the deck to defend early on. I think Keffer's just, we're just seeing his analytical mind identifying exactly what the weakness was in that hand and knowing exactly the threshold to capitalize on it. Now, look, it's always a calculated gamble. If Ben draws any character negate, Freya, or even 1, like any kind of thing that gives him the defense of the 6, then I think he is starting to throw back. I think, Leonidas was not particularly strong with only the 8 being a large piece of defense.
Yeah, it's interesting because it looks like with Phil's build, I think this is an issue with the Zorro choice versus the Monte Cristo choice, where it looks like Phil's kind of split the 8s, where I think he's probably running 8 intellects for Sherlock, and he's just using the Leonidas card as the 8 power card for him. And whereas I think on Ben's side, he's got another 8 combat character, so he's going to feel more pressure to include, kind of like lean more towards the combat side of things, which does leave Sherlock more open.
So they're still going back and forth. Interestingly enough, Phil has placed his Hades on the reserve character. I find that an interesting choice.
I've done that a few times, actually. If you don't want to concede and you want to save it.
I like it. I think it's an interesting choice. Now, if he's playing Baker Street, so I imagine... Well, he's going 3 for the win. So he still places out. He hedges fine. That means Ben is most likely going the obligatory 2. We don't see Ben's placing position improve much. He gets the 8 down on Leonidas, so he's keeping pace with that 300 special. But we don't really have any insight on what he's got defensively in his hand. Now, Phil's not able to dump the cards in his hand. So Ben is going to be able to throw that not a bad detective. Where do you target if you've got the not a bad detective?
I mean, in this case, I would probably be looking at I would want any characters, and I would assume he's probably got a little bit less on the intellect side. I'd probably throw it at Sherlock.
I think that target's going to either get a negate or some like offsuit power cards, or so here we go. So he's throwing the Jacopo. So for those new to the environment, it's blocked with Zorro's Riposte, which works for anyone on the team. This is a 3-hit string, and Phil now can play any attack face down. Now, he could pick up a placed card and put it face down, which he's going to do. Ben knows what it is. It's still a good 3 string with a huge hit at the end, and it's still against a target that's going to be tough to defend. And unfortunately, it looks like it hits. Now, I think if you're Ben, you got to dump the special as one of them. He's going for the win. It's a non-venturable card.
Yeah. You just need to keep the game going at this point.
And then it looks like he's considering shield phalanx. I don't think I would have dumped the ally. I think he's got to dump the other special for Sherlock Holmes. And then he could have gone ally right into his not a bad detective and put some of the pressure back.
I agree. I would probably just have not played that card this turn, or waited till the very end and know I survived first.
The problem is, even if Phil's got a better hand and he can win this, your shot is you've got to be able to look at it and be like, okay, I need to at least create the illusion of pressure that I'm going to be able to win to try to make Phil run. You got to play onto that bluffing part a little bit. Now, he makes an interesting choice. I agree with Fairy Protection, but he gets out the Gemini, where I'm assuming unless Phil's Grim Reaper is in his hand, I'm not sure.
It could be. I think it is actually. I think I see it on the end. And I think that's a good lesson for that card. Don't ever rush that card when you're playing it. Take a look to see if there's key 1 per decks in your opponent's hand that you haven't
Well,
seen yet.
yeah,
And
I
then
mean
know
that
what's
is one
coming.
thing. Like Ben might know now that he's about to get power Grim Reapered. Now I'm not sure what he could do about it. But if he's got
That's always the
like
sad
look at it
part.
this way, if he's got 4 combat icons, he could block the 4 with one of the 8s. But this
Yep.
looks like the Grim Reaper's coming. I suspect if the 6 hit, then he doesn't have a defense of it. I suspect the 6 was a probing shot to see if he could pull a piece of defense. Now, if Ben has kept like an avoid or something in his hand and is like the greatest predictive player in history, that's great. But oh, looks like Phil is not going with the Grim Reaper, which that I find that absolutely baffling after the 6 hit. I think you point that thing at someone that doesn't have personal special defense.
I don't mind the play at this point just because I'm seeing most of the red stuff is probably going to be the stuff you want to target. And you really want to get rid of the play stuff because it's got high numbers and it doesn't look like any of it's chainable. So, and I mean, that would be my biggest concern is that if he's got 1 ally chain, but that's going to be green. So it's, and he's got, that's another reason, but
what?
Oh, he did.
What?
Oh my God. He saved the Freya.
And then is forced to
That's
use
amazing.
the Freya. Now you got to go for Sherlock. Go for all right. Yeah, maybe
he might still
gets
be able to get
Reaper out
the
of
Reaper
this,
with
but
this.
I mean, he's going to draw the negate is what he's going to do.
Yeah.
But what a strong,
at least that's
not a
something.
bad detective. Just so for those watching, it most likely with 3 cards in hand and he targeted Leonidas, he would have had to have used the Freya or he would have lost it on the 221 Baker Street effect. He fires back with his not a bad detective and Phil's got his Freya. So he's still got the negate placed.
So this means that Ben probably didn't actually go through the whole deck to look for Reaper. He probably just saw the Gemini and said, this is good enough. Because otherwise he probably would have saved that Freya for the Reaper.
Well, I think he had to use it because he was going to expose it for the not a bad detective. And then he would just get rid of it with the 21 Baker Street effect. But this is looking a little rough. So Sherlock's going to play this. He's going to use the training card. I like throwing a training card main deck, and this is where I think the game's going to unfortunately come to an end. That's going to hit. He's going to lose his 4 combat cards. Well, I'll say this. Phil had not so much of a god draw, but man, about as close as you get. We'll call it a demigod draw. I don't really think there were 1 or 2 small plays I might have done differently than Ben, but I also think if I'm on Ben's side of the board with those draws, I'm getting smoked also. Keffer had exactly what he needed. Keffer really likes these aggressive 4-3 decks, 3-4 decks. He likes to try to win in 2 to 3 hands. And that's a great example of it. Great game. I can't really say much about too many of the play decisions. I think like Ben could have optimized Venture when the 6 hit, but Phil playing the not a bad detective to force the Freya discard, that really was the turning point. Because I think Ben may have made the awesome play of letting the 6 hit just to take a peek at the deck and see if he had anything he needed to keep the Freya for. Super.
Yeah, that's a good point. I think it was a good game, and I agree with you. I don't think Ben could have done anything different. Like, I think this is just one of those variance games. The decks were too close together. They had similar answers. Phil kind of knew what his capabilities were going to be, and he just didn't look like he had much.
Sitting across the deck from a player like Phil, who's so calculating and so good at the game, is hard enough. When you sit across the deck from Phil and 3 of your characters are the same as his in season 0 with only 1 set, that's a pretty tough matchup.
Yeah. Says a lot
Yeah.
about your deck building, though, too. That's
Yeah.
credit to Ben for that.
Yeah, it seems like they're having a great conversation about it too. And just to add on, that's what's so great about this game. You know, so many other CCGs I've played, you're gonna get the people. They're the best players are gonna win and get up and walk away. And here we've got, you know, these guys. The camaraderie is so great. Like every great player wants to talk strategy, wants to help the new players, and you see it in the community when you get players that have been playing for a year getting in the top 8 with players that have been playing for 30 years. You know, it's really a testament to the welcoming community and the willingness to like just get a lot of good players in the game. You know, everybody wants to have these great games and have a community where people have a shot at winning. So um
Yeah, and I know Ben's been a great new player, and he's been attending as many events. He really wants to kind of get up to speed really quickly, and
a
he's
super
definitely
nice
on his
guy.
way. So
great addition to our community. Ben, we're glad to have you, and
Awesome guy.
let's move on to round 5.